The Camden house was supposed to feel safe, a place for prayers and second chances, and Sunday night family lessons. But looking back at Seventh Heaven now feels way more complicated. The kids grew up, the parents aged, and careers changed forever. Time brought shadows that the classic show could never have predicted. To millions of viewers, this was once a picture of faith, forgiveness, and home. Today, it is a reminder that the actor behind those familiar faces lived very different lives off screen. Tonight we are heading back to Seventh Heaven, not just for the comfort, but for what time finally revealed. Reverend Eric Camden is the dad at the very center of Seventh Heaven. Audiences first remembered him a calm voice in a house always packed with noise, question, and searing questions. Born October 1947, Collins was 48 when the show premiered in '96, and he gave Eric the steady presence of someone trying to guide not just a family, but a whole can mattered, because he was more than a pastor. He was the emotional backbone of the Camden home, expected to forgive, advise, discipline, and somehow the right answer when life got messy. But looking back today, that role carries a heavy, complicated weight. In 2026, Collins turned 79, and his legacy is linked to both the show Smackshas and the Heavers that headed his public career. Before Seventh Heaven, he appeared in projects like Star Trek, the motion picture, Tales of the Gold Monkey, The First Wives Club, and Touchy V roles. But Eric Camden became the face viewers never forgot. The contrast between the beloved character an actor makes this role very different. Reverend Eric Camden endures because Stephen Collins made moral guidance feel warm and familiar on screen, even if time later made the memory of that warmth much more complicated. Annie Camden is the heart of the home, the mom whose love was the quiet force holding 7 kids, the pastor husband, and a storm of family issues together. Catherine Hicks, born August 6, 1951, was 45 when Seventh Heaven premiered in 1986. She gave a Worf was practical, protective, and deeply human. Annie was never just the smiling mom in the background. She cooked, corrected, worried, and listened, carrying the heavy emotional load of a family that always had one more crisis waiting at the door. What made her performance work was the way she made Annie nurturing, without making her feel weak. She could be gentle, but also incredibly firm, exhausted, and fiercely loyal when her kids needed it. In 2026, Hicks turned 75 after a career stretching far beyond the Camden kitchen. Before Seventh Heaven, she earned attention on Ryan's Hope and starred as Marilyn Monroe in Marilyn, The Untold Story, appeared in Peggy Sue Got Married, and became unforgettable to horror fans as Karen Barclay in Chachan's Hugh. But for many, Annie is her most lasting role, that beloved mother figure connected to Sunday Night Nunyandai. And growing up, Annie Camden endures because Catherine Hicks made motherhood feel warm, imperfect, and strong in a home through hard times. Simon Camden is the sensitive son, whose boyish innocence slowly gave way to some of the show's coming-age pain. David Galler, born February 9, 1985. He was 11 when the show debuted in '96, bringing a vulnerability that Simon's growth deeply personal. At first, Simon was that bright, curious kid in the family, always trying to understand rules, faith, and high expectations through churlish eyes. But as he grew up, the show pushed him into darker territory, dealing with guilt, identity, and the damage that follows on bad mistake. That shift made Simon a prime example of the show's attempt to follow kids into adulthood without predicting the road stayed easy. 2026, Gallagher turned 41, continuing his career in film, TV, and voice acting. Beyond Seventh might remember him from Look Who's Talking Now, Super 8, The Vampire Diaries, and especially as the voice of Riku in the Kingdom Hearts gaming franchise. Simon Camden endures because David Gallagher made teenage years feel painful, uncertain, and loaded with questions that could never be solved by a quick family talk. Matt Camden is the oldest kid carrying the pressure of being responsible before knowing who Watson bored. 1974, was 22 when Seventh Heaven debuted in '96, and he gave Matt the easy charm of a guy stuck between childhood loyalty and adult freedom. Matt mattered because he was the perfect bridge between his parents' strict world and the younger siblings, trying to find their way. He could be protective, impulsive, romantic, and stubborn, and sincere, the kind of big brother who wanted to lead the way, even when he was still figuring out how to stand on his own own 2 feet. Becoming a doctor gave him a real sense of purpose, but his messy relationships and mistakes kept him human. In 2026, Watson turns 52 after a career defined by massive success and some serious real-life resilience. Outside of Seventh Heaven, he starred in What About Brian, Samantha Who, and The Loudest Voice, while also surviving Hoechlin lymphoma, a major battle that paused his career and gave his public story a much deeper layer of survival. Matt Camden still resonates because Barry Watson made growing up and taking responsibility feel messy. How messialt and quietly brave. Mary Camden was the rebellious daughter who brought real drama into that squeaky clean house, an athlete whose inner strength was always wrapped up in mistakes, pride, and a deep need to be understood. Jessica Biel, born March 30th, 1982, was just 14 when Seventh Heaven hit the screen in 96, bringing a raw intensity that disrupted the show's soft family vibe. Mary connected with viewers because she was far from the perfect daughter. She constantly pushed boundaries, made terrible choices, chased her freedom, and forced the show to tackle real-world consequences in a messy way. Her big basketball dreams, intense loyalty, anger, and constant search for forgiveness made her unseen character. In 2026, Biel turns 44 after launching one of the absolute biggest careers of the Tyracast. She successfully jumped from teen TV into film and producing, starring in movies like The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Blade Trinity, The Illusionist, and the comedy I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry. She also earned massive critical acclaim starring in and producing The Sinner. Meanwhile, her marriage to Justin Timberlake kept her in the headlines as she focused on producing darker. Mary Camden still stands out because Jessica Biel made her flaws feel restless, athletic, and painfully real within a family obsessed with forgiveness. Kevin Kinkerk is the steady guy who enters the Camden world like a promise of safety, especially as Lucy's life shifts toward adulthood, marriage, and family. George Stultz, born 1875, was 27 when he joined Seventh Heaven in 2002, and he gave Kevin a calm, highly dependable vibe that fit perfectly into the show's later seasons. Playing a cop and Lucy's husband, Kevin brought a much-needed sense of stability, not through grand gestures but the everyday kind, built on loyalty, patience, and simply showing up. He was important because the writers needed characters to grow the Camden circle without throwing off the circle. His relationship with Lucy brought comedy, sweet moments, normal couple fights, and a real sense that the next generation was starting to go over. In 2026, Stultz turns 51. He is kept busy with TV and film, regularly plays we all love. Outside of Seventh Heaven, he popped up in shows like October Road, The Finder, and multiple T-movies, though fans will always think of him as Kevin first. Kevin Kinkerk endures because George Stultz made being dependable feel romantic, gentle, and absolute necessary, and a housery was always in Keogh's. Martin Brewer is the troubled young outsider who shows up at the Camden home carrying more pain than he can express. Tyler Hoechlin, born September 11th, 1987, was 16 when he joined Seven in 2003, and he gave Martin a guarded vulnerability that turned him into one of the show's biggest big house in later seasons. Martin mattered because he was not an actual Camden, yet he ended up right in the center of their world. His story explored grief, confusion, and messy teenage mistakes, highlighting how hard it is to act tough before you are actually ready to stand alone. In 2026, Hoechlin turns 39 after building a massive career far beyond family dramas. He found goal home on Teen Wolf before stepping into one of pop culture's most legendary roles, Clark Kent in Superman and Lois. He also starred in Road to Perdition and Everybody Wants Some, proving his range went from dark, quiet to classy hero vibes. Martin Brewer endures because Tyler Hoechlin made teenage trauma feel quiet, defensive, and capable of growing into genuine strength. Robbie Palmer is the charming bad boy who walks into the Camden household, bringing trouble and an expressible. Adam Laverna, born November 1st, 1981, was 18 when he joined Seventh Heaven in 1999, giving Robbie a conflicted energy that niche more than just a standard boyfriend. Robbie stood out because he was someone the family had every reason to distrust, but over time, he became a main part of their daily lives. His relationship with Lucy, his messy history with Mary, and his slow path toward growing up gave Gunchen a story that felt deeply gun-personal and completely real. In 2026, Lavorgna turns 45, and his life after Seventh Heaven has been wave his teen years in the spotlight. He already had roles in Brooklyn Bridge and I'll Be Home for Christmas before stepping away from unstopped grind of mainstream fame. Robbie Palmer endures because Adam Lavorgna made second chances feel messy, charming, and totally believing. The kind of change that unfolds slowly under the eyes of people who still are not sure they should trust you. Lucy Camden is the daughter whose heart was always open, sometimes too open, making her one of 7 of strongest emotional anchors. Beverly Mitchell, born January 22, 1981, was 15 when the show premiered in '96, and she brought a sincerity that carried Lucy from her awkward teen years straight into adulthood. Lucy was dramatic, hopeful, insecure, yet deeply committed to becoming someone who mattered. Her journey through first crushes, heartbreak, faith, marriage, motherhood, and ministry made her the Camden child most shaped by spiritual world. In 2026, Mitchell turns 45, remaining close to the show's legacy while building a busy beyond. She kept acting and released country music, starred in hits like Saw 2 and The Secret Life of the American Teenager, and later opened up her real life, sharing her journey through motherhood and loss with deep vulnerability. For many, Lucy represents the emotional growing pains of a generation that watched her grow up in real time. Lucy Camden endures because Beverly Mitchell made her earnestness feel fragile, sometimes messy but always. Roxanne Richardson is the confident outsider bringing a new rhythm to the Camden world, an independent woman giving the later seasons a sharper edge. Rachel Blanchard, born March 19, 1976, joined Seventh Heaven at 2002. She gave Roxanne a lively, self-assured vibe that made her stand out, sheltered from the show's sheltered in the sphere. As a cop connected to Kevin King's world, Roxanne brought a real sense of adulthood, bringing work, romance, and tough choices outside the Camden's usual structure. She mattered because she offered contrast, playing someone caring but never soft, and romantic without ever losing her edge, and funny without being lightweight. In 2026, Blanchard turns 50 after bridging teen comedy, drama, and dark thrillers. Before Seventh Heaven, she starred in Are You Afraid of the Dark and Clueless, Peep Show, Fargo, You, Me, Her, and other projects showcasing her range between charm and complexity. Roxanne Richardson endures because Rachel Blanchard made confidence feel warm, modern, and strong enough to stand the cans within to fading away. Cecilia Smith is the bright teenager who brings vulnerability and youthful uncertainty into Simon Camden's storyline. Ashley Simpson, born October 3, 1984, was 18 when she joined Seventh Heaven in 2002, bringing a lively, warm warmth that the show's early's energy. Cecilia mattered because she captured that young love era where every single emotion feels absolutely massive, every choice feels permanent, and every relationship shapes who you become. Her connection with the show explore adolescence, loyalty, and the thin line between supporting someone and losing yourself. By 2026, Simpson is 42, having moved far beyond acting into pop stardom. She became a major music debut album, Autobiography, starred in a massive reality show, and faced that infamous live TV mishap day on Saturday Night Live and thousands, and later rebuilt her brand through music, family, and selective entertainment projects. Cecilia Smith endures because Ashley Simpson made teenage love feel bright, imperfect, and tied to a moment when television, pop music, and teen fame changed overnight. Chandler Hampton is the late-season minister who brings charm, drama, and emotional tension straight into the Can's orbit. Jeremy London, born November 7, 1972, joined Seventh Heaven in 2029. He gave Chandler a gentle, uneasy quality that made him feel like a man, still trying to prove his own stability. Chandler mattered because he entered a world defined by faith and moral guidance. Yet he wasn't just another perfect, clean-cut helper. His relationships, especially his connection with Lucy, created real tension around romance, career, and the heavy question of what kind of life he was actually ready to build. In 2026, London turns 54 after a career featuring Party of Five, Mallrats, and numerous other Keller Gone roles. His off-screen life later involved public struggles and personal issues, making his real story far the complicated and cut world of Seventh Heaven. Chandler Hampton lives on because Jeremy London made his charm feel searching, vulnerable, and a bit unfinished. It was like a man meant to guide others was still finding his own way. Peter Petrasky is just a hurt kid acting tough, secretly searching for a place to finally feel wanted. Scotty Leavenworth, born November 17, 1990, was only 12 when he joined Selv, bringing a restless, genuine sensitivity to Peter that really made him connect with younger viewers. Peter mattered because he brought a different vibe of childhood to the Camden world, not the cozy life of a big family, but the raw reality of a kid shaped by divorce and the fear of not belonging. His bond and sweet romance with Ruthie let the show capture the essence of growing up in tiny jealousy, loyalty, embarrassment, and finding trust. In 2026, Leavenworth turns their young Creamore that featured The Green Mile, Aaron Brockovich, Life as a House, and other gigs, before he mostly stepped away from the public eye. Living a quiet life today gives Peter's story a bittersweet sense of distance, making both actor and character feel frozen in a distinct early 2000s memory. Peter Petrasky's Sicky Leavenworth made growing pains feel raw, real, and beautifully healed. John Hamilton is the gentle soul whose quiet maturity brought a fresh emotional depth to the early County Caps. Chaz Lamar Shepard, born October 26, 1977, was 18 when Seventh did back in 1996. He gave John a thoughtful, steady presence that made him feel wise beyond his years. John mattered because he represented responsibility and genuine friendship, bringing stable young love without all the hectic chaos surrounding the Camden teenagers. His tight bond allowed of the show to focus on trust, mutual respect, and the tough transition into adulthood while holding on to youthful dreams. In 2026, Shepard turns 49 after building a diverse career in both acting and music. Outside of Seventh Heaven, he starred in The Parkers, The Temptations, Set It Off, and various theater off, all while nurturing a music career that highlights a completely different side of his talents. His presence belongs to a simpler, softer era of the show, way before the Camden Kids storylines kept her messy and complicated. John Hamilton lives on because Chaz Lamar Shepard made basic decency feel fresh, grounded, and unforgettable packed with tough moral choices. Sandy Jameson is the new face who injects fresh emotional tension into the final seasons of Seventh Heaven, especially when dealing with romance, big responsibilities, and growing up way too fast. Haley Duff, born February 19, 1985, was 20 when she joined the cast in 2005. She brought a natural sweetness to Sandy that really softened the darkest moments of her heavy storyline. Sandy mattered because she lived a much tougher version of young adulthood than the Camden Kids did. Her world was full of doubt, teen pregnancy, and hard choices before she even had things figure. Her messy drama with Martin gave the series a perfect opening to forgiveness and flaws. By 2026, Duff turns 41. Today, she boasts a rich career across acting, music, food, and lifestyle entrepreneurship. You probably remember her in Napoleon Dynamite, Material Girls, or Lizzie McGuire, before she found she's success as a host and business owner. Sandy Jameson stands out because Haley Duff portrayed teen motherhood as something incredibly vulnerable and perfect, earning compassion instead of judgment. Mac is the loyal best friend who keeps Martin Brewer's storyline grounded in normal teenage reality from the heavy Camden drama. Kyle Searles, born June 24, 1985, was 19 when he joined Seventh in 2004, bringing a chill, easygoing vibe to Mac, making him exactly the kind of friend any struggling guitar kid. Mac mattered because a teen drama doesn't need every single character to go through a massive tragedy to stand out. Often, the real value is just having a steady presence, someone who listens, laughs, and keeps you from feeling totally isolated. Staying close to Martin while navigating his own dating life, Mac added a fun, normal social vibe to the show's late-stage teen drama. In 2026, Searles hits 41, having chased music, entertainment, and other creative the sitcom role that put him on the map. Yet his run on Seventh Heaven stands as his most famous gig, representing the final era of the show. Focus on a fresh crop of teenage faces. Mac lives on because Kyle Searles made high school friendship feel relaxed, fiercely loyal. Ashley Loyal, and absolute got complicated. Rose is the girl who almost marries into the Camden family tree, bringing heavy tension, impatience, and a messy, complicated romance straight into Simon Simmons' storyline. Born October 25, 1979, Sarah Thompson in Seventh Heaven in 226. She gave Rose a fierce, strong-willed vibe that you could ignore. Rose mattered, because she told the disrupted into family's cozy plans for Simon's future. They didn't write her as sweet or easy. She was stubborn, insecure, demanding, and completely vulnerable, making her relationship with Simon feel messy, which perfectly captured that raw, young adult uncertainty. Her story forced hard questions about marriage, timing, and compatibility, and whether love can actually survive when two people aren't ready for the life they're trying to build. In 2026, Thompson turns 47, still acting on television and film. She starred in Angle and Cruel Intentions too. Boston Public, Without a Trace, and global projects that pushed her talent way past standard American the dramas. Rose sticks with us because Sarah Thompson made trying to join a family feel tense, emotional, and loaded with that painful gap between desperately wanting love and actually being ready for it. Lou Dalton is that rock-solid community guy who makes Glen Oak feel like a real town, not just the Ken house and church. Alan Fudge, born February 27, 1944, was 53 when he started Heaven in 1997. He gave Lo a warm, trustworthy vibe that anchored the show's focus on neighborhood, faith, and community support. Lo mattered because family shows need characters outside the main house, friends, mentors, and the whole community feel deeply connected. His relationship with Eric Camden and the local community brought in a rich layer of everyday wisdom, the kind that never begs for attention, but quietly keeps the story together. Fudge passed on October 10, 2011 at 67 after fighting lung and liver cancer, ending a massive career in television and film. He was a man from Atlantis, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, and Knots Landing, Law, plus many guest roles where his calm authority made him a familiar face. Lou Dalton endures because Alan Fudge made support feel everyday, fatherly, and absolutely vital to the world Seventh Heaven the Mo wanted to build. Wilson West is the handsome young dad who brought sweetness, major complications, and real worst H.C. Kemen lose area of life. Andrew Keegan, born January 29, 1979, was 18 when he joined Seventh Heaven back in 1997. Plus, he brought Wilson that classic teen idol warmth, making him instantly unforgettable. Wilson mattered because he wasn't as just a crush as a young dad. His story connected teenage levels, giving Lucius a much more mature emotional edge. He was super charming and playful, but heavy obligations made things way more complicated than a standard, simple first love. In 2026, Keegan turns 47, following a career deeply rooted in late teenies youth culture, starring in 10 Things I Hate About You, Party of Five, and The Broken Hearts Club, and plenty of other screen projects before making news for his spiritual community and unconventional lifestyle outside of Hollywood. Wilson West still stands out because Andrew Keegan made teenage charm feel heavy, real, and shaped by heavy duties most TV high school romances never deal with. Ben Kirk is that laid-back guy who enters the Camden world through romance and family ties, bringing total warmth without all the heavy baggage weighing down the show's main family. Jeff Stoltz, born December 15, 1977, was 23 when starting on 2001, giving Ben a chill, likable vibe that helped him blend right into the show's later seasons. Ben mattered because he built out the Kirk family side, making the whole Camden world feel way bigger. A stark kids group of Vitas dating. His bond with Mary and the changing family dynamics brought new depth to the show's themes of commitment, growth, and finding where you belong. In 2026, Stoltz turns 49 after carving out a steady career in both TV and film. He starred in October Road, The Finder, Enlisted, Grace and Frankie, and Little Fires Everywhere, plus lots of other gigs where his down-to-earth charm and relaxed vibe made him a familiar face. Ben Kinjerk stays memorable because Jeff Stoltz made being likable look so effortless, helping the expand a league circle. Keep Seven moving forward in its final years. Shauna Sullivan is the wild-hearted girl whose romance with Matt Camden brought real adult love, distance, and huge growing pains into Seventh Heaven. Maureen Flanagan, born May 19, 1973, was 24 when she joined the cast in '98, and she gave Shauna a fierce, independent streak, making her feel like a real person with a life outside the Can family. Shauna mattered because she was that partner who teaches you just as much through drama as she through love. Her story captured independence, high ambitions, tough timing, and the reality that love doesn't fit neatly into family expectations. In 2026, Flanagan turns 53, after a career that started way before Seventh A. She was already famous for Out of This World as Evie Garland, later shifting into acting, producing, and doing creative work all across the entertainment industry. Joining Seventh Heaven gave Matt's story a mature romantic arc, focusing on tough choices about duty and letting go. Shanna Sullivan still resonates because Moore and Flanagan made young, independent characters feel so warm, raucous, and honest that they left a permanent mark. T-Bone was the troubled kid arriving near the end of Seventh Heaven, embodying the show's core belief can turns around if someone actually cares. Colton James, born January 24, 1987, was 19 when he joined in 2006, giving Tana Robb a global vibe for the final Camden chapter. T-Bone mattered because he represented the exact type of misfit the show always loved focusing on. A kid with baggage, attitude, and bad habits, but with a real shot at redemption. His dynamic with the younger cast gave the final episodes another chance to explore guidance and trust, and how healing acceptance can be. In 2026, James turns 39, having transitioned from active behind-the-scene creative and production roles. His acting run also included roles in Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, ER, and several other projects before he walked away from the spotlight of teen television fame. T-Bone stands out because Colton James made those rough edges feel human, redeemable, and completely worth rooting for. Before the Camden house finally closed its doors, Julie Camden Hastings was the relative who reminded us that this family story wasn't just about Kid or one Raffin. Deborah Raffin, born March 13, 1953, was 43 when the show started in 1996, giving Julie a gentle, grounded warmth that linked her to the family as deeper emotional past. Julie mattered because extended family members carry so many memories, old habits, shared duties, marriage and recovery, and the messy ways grown-ups try to back each other up. Her storylines dealt with real struggles, expanding the Can Road hunted outside their crowded home. Raffin passed away on November 21, 2012, at only 59, after battling leukemia, leaving behind a rich legacy of acting, producing, and even publishing. She starred in movies like Once Is Not Enough, Death Wish 3, and Touched by Love, plus tons of TV shows, while also co-founding a major audiobook company. Julie Camden Hastings lives on because Deborah Raffin made extended family feel graceful, vulnerable, and beautifully woven into the fabric of love, loss, and memory. Sam Camden was half of the youngest heartbeat of the family, a kid who proved that somehow is about home that kept growing, and trying to fit in more love. Lorenzo Brino, born September 21, 1998, 99 in the show as a baby 99, sharing the gig with his brothers early on before taking over the role of Sam full-time. On screen, Sam and his twin David brought pure light and mischief, injecting the chaos of toddlers into a house already bursting with teen drama and heavy lessons. Yet looking back today, Sam's scenes have a heartbreaking weight no one saw coming. Lorenzo Brino died on March 9, 2020, at just 21 in a car crash. Devastating saw him as one of those sweet Camden babies. His acting career was short, but his ties to Seventh Heaven defined the show's later years. Even as the family grew huge and time marched on, Sam Camden remains unforgettable because Lorenzo tell her look incredibly joyful, real, and forever frozen in time. Ruthie Camden was the little girl who grew up right before our eyes, a clever youngest daughter whose sharp gaze missed absolutely nothing. Mackenzie Rosman, born December 28, 1989, was only 6 when the series debuted in 1996. She instantly gave Ruthie a vibrant energy that made the busy household feel incredibly real and live. Ruthie mattered because she wasn't just some cute kid lingering on the sidelines of scenes. She was curious, stubborn, and emotionally sharp, showing that kids process way more than grown-up realize. And as the season rolled rise, we watched her grow from a sweet child into a teenager, navigating the weird pressure coming a Janasher of television. In 2026, Rosamund turns 37, and her life after the show became much quieter than the early fame that made her a household name. She kept doing a few acting gigs, but mostly built a life around horses, charity, and staying far away from Hollywood's spotlight. Ruthie Camden sticks with us because Mackenzie Rosman made growing up feel funny awkward and totally real on our TV screens. A home that viewers felt was their own. The Camden house is quiet now, and those cozy Sunday nights FIFA they used to. But Seventh Heaven was never just about church sermons, family dinners, or quick, neat lessons at the show. It was about kids growing up and parents struggling to hold everything together, and a home that millions of people saw as a safe haven. But time changes things. Some of the cast were huge stars. Others chose a quieter life, and some, like Lorenzo Brino, Alan Fudge, and Deborah Raffin, Raffin. If this throwback brought you back to the Camden family, stick with Rewind 1960s for more stories and memories that time made far more complicated and deeply human.